Comet The Colt of Steel, Chapter 4, Part 2.
Apple Comet? Apple Comet! Apple Comet! It's hurting him, Pa! Does it have him under some kind of spell?
Hush now, he seems to be coming out of it. The smell of fresh hay hit my nostrils as the light faded away from my vision. I looked around to see Apple Bloom's face look up at me with concern. I was back in the barn with a rocket, the crystal, and my family, all looking at me like I'd fallen off of a roof or something. My head felt like I'd been picked up and thrown by a tornado.
Little big brother, are y'all alright?
Apple Bloom asked. Stand back now. Give him some space, Pa's voice boomed. Just relax now, son. Y'all went into some kind of trance when you picked up that rock. Had us all mighty worried you did.
It's not true. It can't be true.
I said, shaking my head furiously.
It's not true. It's not true. Apple Comet, just calm down.
Applejack pleaded.
What's wrong? What isn't true? I'm not a freak. I'm not some kind of alien freak.
I shouted at the top of my voice as I lashed my hoof out at the first thing I saw, which I'm grateful to say was only a beam, with an explosive crack. The beam exploded into a shower of splinters. My heart raced as I drew my hoof back. The beam was obliterated on only the very top, which had anchored it to the loft, which was lying left on the floor next to my hoof. The barn was silent. The apples were understandably shocked, and Pa's face was twisted in an expression of shock. Granny looked like she was going to have a heart attack. Applejack and Big Mac just stared with their jaws hanging halfway to the floor. Apple Bloom just stood there, cowering behind her sister's hind legs, and I drew my hoof back to examine the damage. There wasn't so much as a scratch on it. I just splintered a wooden beam with a single punch, and I didn't feel any pain. I stood there, looking down at my hoof work for what felt like an eternity, until finally, Pa spoke up. It's alright, son. Just calm down, like your sister said. The rest of the family stood behind him, looking at me with fearful eyes. Not that I could blame them.
Stay away from me. You're not safe near me. No pony is.
Tears choked my words as they ran down my muzzle.
Consarn it, Mac.
Granny Smith shouted in between breaths.
I told you, leaving that doodad in his hooves, that was a bad idea.
Now settle down now, Ma, Pa replied, raising his hooves in defense. Getting all flustered about it ain't gonna make the situation any better. He placed his hoof on my shoulder. Without thinking, I swatted it off and bolted through the barn doors quickly, picking up top speed. In a split second, I ran past the front with such speed that my wake tore the gate off of its hinges. I couldn't stay there anymore. I was a monster. I was an alien freak from some long-dead world. Every synapse in my brain was screaming to wake up from this nightmare, but even as I shut my eyes and shook my head frantically in an attempt to wake up, I could still feel the wind racing through my coat, reminding me that this wasn't a dream. I opened my eyes just in time to see the river getting closer and closer, and with a single leap, I not only cleared the river, but I broke the world record for the highest jump by an earth pony by at least 200 feet.
Whoa!
My entire body felt lighter than air, and I looked behind me to see if I had suddenly grown wings. After everything that's happened today, I wouldn't rule it out as impossible. What I wasn't expecting to see was my back still bare. My pupils shrunk when I looked down to see how far I'd jumped. I'd not only managed to clear the river, but I was sailing over the treetops of the ever-free forest. Suddenly, I felt myself beginning to drop. I flowed my legs wildly in a desperate attempt to stay airborne, but gravity wasn't having any of it. I screamed at the top of my lungs as I dropped like a stone. Tree branch after tree branch snapped under me as I crashed through the thick forest canopy before finally landing face first in a puddle of mud. Chapter 5. Sacrifice. The Everfree Forest, a strange hostile environment forged from the banishment of Nightmare Moon. A place where nature runs untouched by equestrian magic, a harsh wilderness home to numerous beasts and monsters. A place most ponies avoid at all costs. Pa had told us up and down that under no circumstances we were to go in there. What in Equestria was I thinking? I thought to myself as I just picked myself up out of the mud. I was scared. I wasn't afraid to admit it. I'd panicked under the stress. What pony wouldn't panic after learning that they were an alien from outer space with freaky alien powers? I'd run away in haste and managed to leap over a mile in distance into the most dangerous forest in all of Equestria. Okay? Most colts and fillies couldn't make that claim. I shook the mud from my coat, and my super speed sending globules of mud flying in every direction. In no time at all, I was completely spotless except for the mud sticking to the bottom of my hooves. Now, what was I to do? Should I go back to Sweet Apple Acres and apologize for running away? What if they didn't take me back? What then? Did I just keep running as long as I could and just try to forget about them? I wasn't Pa's real child. Wait. What am I saying? That never stopped him from loving me as if I were? Wait, did I wait around here for some pony to find me? The hooting of an owl drew me out of my thoughts. Looking around with my X-ray vision, I spotted the owl sitting on the branch of a tree. Wait a minute. Oh, that's right. I have X-ray vision. Finding my way out of this forest was gonna be a snap. And then there was a snap. What? With an echoing yelp, I leaped backwards into a nearby tree. The tree came toppling down in a shower of splinters. I stood up, shaking the moss off of my mane as I looked around. In no time at all, my vision picked up the sight of a broken twig. Wait, that's what I stepped on? A twig? I need not to be so jumpy, I said to myself as I rolled the fallen timber off of me. With my strength, I could do some pretty serious damage. Another loud crack. Case in point. I looked down to see my hoof had ripped out a huge chunk of the trunk without even me noticing. It was then I decided I couldn't go home now. Pa. Granny. Forgive me, but it's for your own safety and mine. At the very least, I should head back to get my stuff and say my goodbyes, but first, I need to find my way out of this forest. My ears picked up a distinctive howl, and I did not need my super hearing to tell me that it was a timber wolf. Granny had told us stories about them, and she told us about her first encounter with one when she was very young and how she just barely escaped being eaten. Another howl echoed through the forest, followed by another, and then another after that. They were gathering. Oh no, this is bad, this is very, very, very bad, I said aloud as I scanned the surrounding trees with my X-ray vision. Come on, where are you coming from? My snout soon picked up the telltale smell of mossy bark, the well-known smell of a timberwolf's breath. My ears picked up the clatter of wood prowling through leaves, and they were preparing to surround me. I wasn't gonna stick around, and as quick as a flash, I took off, my hooves quickly picking up speed. In the distance, I heard the howl of the pack leader. Okay, sounds like they know I'm running. Well, let them try to catch me, I said with a sudden burst of confidence. I was fast enough to leave Pa in the dust without breaking a sweat. A pack of timberwolves would surely be no match for me. Come on, slowpokes! Is that all you got? I hollered back with a smile as I rushed through the forest, my heightened senses guiding me all the way. Looking behind me, I could see the pack far behind me struggling to keep up. These were supposed to be just the most relentless predators in the ever-free forest, able to chase down a grown stallion with ease. But here I was, making them look pathetic. Finally, after several minutes, I heard the pack leader howl and the rest of them dispersed back into the forest. It looks like I'm just too fast for you, I said confidently as I slowed to a stop. Well, that was actually kind of fun, but I still need to figure out where I am. My super hearing picked up the sound of running water in the distance. Sounds like a stream, I said as I looked in the direction the sound was coming from. My X-ray vision pierced through the foliage of trees to reveal a small stream running through the forest. I'll just stop for a quick drink and then I'll just be on my way, I thought to myself as I made my way over to the stream. I quickly lapped up several mouthfuls of water. Each gulp was more cool and refreshing than the last one. With my thirst quenched, I decided to stop and think things over. I didn't know where in the forest I was, or where I was going to go from here. I was pretty sure I wanted to run away after what Javel and Lauren told me, but now I wasn't so certain. My thoughts were interrupted when I heard an all too familiar cry in the distance.
Apple Comet! Apple Comet!
Instinctively, I looked behind me, and I knew that deep voice anywhere.
Pa?
I said as I listened for the voice again.
Apple Comet! Where are you?
It was Pa. He was looking out for me. With my sensitive ears, I had no trouble picking up where his voice was coming from, and my X-ray vision quickly did the rest. Pa was alone, carrying a lantern in his hoof and a lasso at his side. Cupping his muzzle with his lantern hoof, he called out my name.
Apple Comet! Can y'all hear me?
An uneasy feeling of guilt crept into my stomach. Pa was out here in the Everfree Forest, one of the most dangerous places in Equestria. Out looking for me. It didn't matter to him where I'd come from or who I was. He still cared about me. My relief was cut short when I saw several pairs of yellow eyes piercing through the darkness. And something else had found Pa.
Oh no! The Timberwolves! The Timberwolves!
I shouted as I burst into a full gallop. Within several seconds, I was at top speed. Through the trees, I could see the Timberwolf preparing to strike. I had to hurry. Faster and faster I raced through the forest, and the trees and shrubs became blurs as I raced through. Suddenly, with a bone-chilling howl, the Pack Alpha leaped at Pa. In an instant, it knocked him to the ground and dug its claws into his barrel.
No! No!
I felt an overwhelming rage rush through me as I reached the site of the ambush. The Pack Alpha had Pa turn onto his back while the rest of the pack circled, waiting for the inevitable kill. I felt the same burning sensation in my eyes I'd felt earlier today. Before the Alpha could finish the job, it suddenly burst into flames, and in a blind panic, Pa was able to throw it off while the rest of the pack turned to me. With a shout, I dove straight into the closest wolf, its wooden body shattering down the middle as I crashed right through it, and before the rest of the pack could react, my burning vision washed over them, reducing them to nothing but ashes. The surrounding forest erupted into a fiery inferno as my vision cut a swath through the brush. In an instant, we were surrounded by flames. Acting on unknown instinct, I'd inhaled deeply and unleashed a mighty blow. It was as if I'd swallowed and blown out a hurricane. Gale force winds passed through my lips, trees tumbled and fell as they were uprooted. In no time at all, most of the fire was extinguished and the charred remains were covered in a thin coating of ice. Feeling safe for the moment, I rushed over to check on Pa.
Pa! Pa! Pa!
I cried as I rushed over to his side. His face winced in pain as he looked up at me.
Apple Comet. Ugh.
He hissed in pain.
Have y'all had any idea how worried you made us?
He said with a forced smile. I looked down to see his back coated in blood. Looking at him through my X-ray vision, I could see those claw marks ran pretty deep, and that his left hind leg had been badly sprained in the fall. Tears fell down my eyes as I saw the extent of the damage.
I'm so sorry, Pa.
I sobbed as I looked down on him.
I'm sorry I ran away from home like that. I promise I'll never do that again.
It's okay. It's okay, son.
He winced as he slowly stood up, shifting his weight off of his sprained hoof.
Are you gonna be alright?
I asked, concerned. Pa looked at me with a soft smile and said,
I'll live. That was mighty impressive the way you handled those Timberwolves. I guess I know better than to ask how y'all did that.
I scratched the back of my head bashfully.
To tell you the truth, Pa, I don't know how I did that either.
I said.
When I saw that Timberwolf jump at you, it just came out.
Pa chuckled and smiled at me.
Well, we can talk more about it when we get home along with your punishment for running away.
A familiar howl suddenly pierced my ears, and Pa and I turned around to see the front half of the splintered Timberwolf howling into the air.
Pa?
His eyes looked at me with deep fear.
Long too short. It's calling the rest of the pack. We gotta get out of here. Come on.
He hollered as he picked up his lantern in his teeth before breaking into a full gallop. I followed quickly behind, doing my best not to outrun him. In the distance, I could hear the rest of the pack responding to the call. 33. 33 distinct howls, 33 very angry timberwolves that were getting closer every second. I could outrun them again, no problem. But I couldn't leave Pa alone. Even with his great strength, I could see his bad leg was seriously slowing him down.
Don't stop! Don't stop!
He cried through clenched teeth.
River's not too far now!
I looked forward with my telescopic vision, and I could clearly see the trees of the orchard lying just beyond the river. We were almost there, just a little further. My blood ran cold at the sound of the howl. Pa and I looked behind to see the Timberwolf pack not even 30 feet from us.
Apple Comet, listen to me,
he said solemnly as he took his lantern in his hoof.
I need you to use your speed. Run back home to the homestead.
I am not leaving you, Pa.
I cried in protest.
I can handle these things.
Pa looked down sternly at me.
I'll only slow you down. Forget about me, just run!
He shouted as he stopped and turned to face the pack. With a flick of his hoof, the lantern tossed towards the lead wolf. It shattered against the beast's head in a shower of glass and an eruption of flame. In an instant, the timber wolf was engulfed in flames. Howls of agony came from its maw before the fire burned off its lower jaw. The rest of the pack slowly backed away from the burning body of their comrade, and for a moment I thought they were gonna run away. Instead, they just looked at Pa with vengeful expressions carved across their faces. I stood transfixed at the sight before me, my hooves feeling anchored to the forest floor. The entire pack stood before us, their crooked jaws growling and snarling at us. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, one of the pack charged at me. Everything seemed to slow down in that instance, and as the Timberwolf leapt towards me, I felt the familiar burning sensation in my eyes. I smiled as the heat from my eyes burned my attacker to a pile of ashes. My victory was short-lived as the rest of the pack descended on us. The horde of sharp claws, gnarled teeth, and sickly yellow eyes with only one purpose. Just to rip Pa and I from limb, and feast on the remains. I let loose blast after blast of my heat vision, incinerating them one after another. But there was just too many of them to stop. As I turned to my left, prepared to fry another, I was suddenly knocked to the ground. I looked up in time to see a timberwolf clamp its jaws around my throat, and it snarled as it tried to sink its teeth into my jugular, but I was no ordinary prey that was gonna lie down and die. I kicked my hind legs to its neck with such force that its head went sailing off into the distance. I threw its headless corpse off of me like a hoofball, straight into the two timberwolves standing right behind it.
What are y'all still doing here?
I looked over just in time to see Pa surrounded by timberwolves. I watched as one leapt at him from the front, only to take a right hoof to the lower jaw. The beast's mouth splintered as it crumbled onto its back. Pa leapt on top of it, stomping his massive hooves onto the monster's chest with such force that his horseshoes left impressions. I could tell that he was putting up a good fight, but he wouldn't last much longer against the horde.
I told you, I am not leaving you behind, Pa!
I shouted back to him as another timberwolf tried to jump him from behind. A quick blast of my heat vision and Pa's attacker was engulfed in flames. The remaining members of the pack quickly took him to the ground, but before they could deliver a killing blow, I took a deep breath into my lungs and let out loose another gust of wind from my lips. One by one, the timberwolves blew apart like piles of sticks caught in a tornado, scattering into the woods.
You guys really need to chill out,
I said with a satisfied smirk as the last one blew away.
Are you alright, Pa? Pa, are you alright?
I asked as I rushed over to check on him. I had taken extra care to target each of the timberwolves individually or in pairs rather than the entire pack at once so as to hopefully not hurt Pa.
I'll live.
He groaned as he got back up to his hooves.
You're pretty handy with that breath of yours, ain't ya?
Yeah. Did you see when the one timberwolf tried to jump on you from behind? And I just blasted him like pew pew, and then he just turned to dust? Oh man, that was awesome.
I was bouncing around on my hooves with excitement.
Who wouldn't be? I had just taken on a pack of timberwolves single-hoofedly and won. Okay, well, I did have some help from Pa, but still, it was pretty awesome. Just wait until the kids at school got a look at me tomorrow. I would surely be the talk of the town. The Colt that came from outer space, who was faster than a speeding arrow, more powerful than timberwolves, able to leap entire forests in a single bound. Why, I bet even Princess Celestia would come to see me.
Alright.
Pa said as he raised his hoof, signaling that it was time to settle down.
Hold your horses, we still gotta get out of here, and when we get back home, we're gonna have a long talk about these powers.
Yeah, I got the message. Don't worry about it, Pa. Now, with my awesome X-ray vision, I'll find our way home in no time, and if anything else tries to tangle with us, I'll make him regret messing with me.
There was a loud thum sound emanating.
What was that?
A sudden tremor shook the ground, and Pa's eyes widened with horror.
We need to get out of here, now!
He shouted at me. There were more thumbing sounds, and I laughed at his worried sentiments.
Okay. Let me handle this, Pa. I'll make him sorry that he crossed into this neck of the woods.
I wasn't scared anymore. I didn't need to be scared of anything with my powers. Whatever it was, it was gonna go down. There were more thumbing sounds. The thundering footsteps were getting closer and closer. The trees shook and swayed as the beast drew closer.
This ain't up for discussion, son. Now come on!
He said, reaching with his teeth for my tail. I kicked up a burst of speed before he could nab me, dashing headlong through the trees in search of this new challenge. It wasn't really a very long search. A familiar howl, a long one, echoed through the woods. More Timberwolves?
Bring it on. I didn't care if it was 100, 1,000, 10,000, 10,001. No pile of bark was a match for me. Okay, so the Timberwolf was a bit bigger than what I was expecting. Okay, it was a whole lot bigger. As in, the size of our barn kinda bigger. But it didn't matter. I still had my powers, and it was gonna go down. Right after I got over my shock. You want a piece of this, Bark Breath?
I shouted up at it, and the monster looked down at me with burning hatred in its eyes.
Now, since I'm so nice, I'm gonna count to 3 and give you one chance to walk away. 1, 2...
It thwacked me. I slammed with a loud thud.
Oh, that hurt. That hurt. That really hurt.
Ow. Okay, I'll be the first to admit going up to Timberwolf King's face and, boasting about how bad you were, going to kick its butt, might not have been the best strategy, but I was still determined to show that it just signed its death warrant. Alright, no more Mr. Nice Guy!
I cried as I leapt towards it with my hind hoof, extending it like I'd seen in those martial arts movies. My flying kick caught the Timberwolf King on top of the head, snapping off one of its antlers in half. The beast howled in pain, grabbing where its missing antler had snapped off, while I landed less gracefully in a tumble not too far off. 1-0 to the Colt of Steel.
Oh, what's the matter?
I teased.
Is this little colt too tough for the big bad puppy?
Its eyes turned red with rage as it glared down at me. With a bellowing roar, I charged. With the speed of a bolt of lightning, I was off, my hooves thundering against the ground with the Timberwolf King in pursuit. Trees crumbling as we raced through the forest. As I expected, I was too fast for it to keep up with me, effortlessly darting left and right with each swipe of the claws.
Come on, Slowpoke!
I shouted at the beast, attempting to squash me under the claw, only for me to dive clear just in time.
Is that really all you got?
My excitement was at an all-time high. Unfortunately, it was about to all come crashing down.
Apple Comet! Apple Comet!
Came a cry of worry from behind me, and I turned around to see Pa galloping as fast as he could towards me. His heartbeat was racing rapidly, his eyes white with fear.
Pa!
That proved to be the opening the Timberwolf needed. Before I could dodge out of the way, the behemoth snatched me up in its jaws and shook me like a chew toy.
No!
I heard Pa cry out as the monster shook its head back and forth in an attempt to rip me apart. Its teeth were sharp stakes trying to impale me. Fortunately, my skin proved impenetrable. Steadying myself on my hind legs, I pressed my forelegs against the king's upper jaw and pushed with all of my might. Slowly but surely, I was able to push its jaws apart just enough to see Pa pick up a large rock and hurl it at the king's face. The stone struck the Timberwolf King below its right eye with a resounding crack. The beast howled with pain as it thrashed its head from side to side, sending me tumbling off my hooves and out of its mouth. Instinctively, I grabbed one of the king's canines to hang onto. And snap!
it snapped in my hooves like a toothpick, sending me plummeting 30 feet to the ground. No, no! Then boom. I hit the ground with a thud, but felt no worse for wear, and I looked up in time to see the Timberwolf King's claw swipe at me with enough force to send me flying through the trees for at least, 800 feet. I dusted myself off and prepared to finish the fight once and for all, and my blood ran cold at the sight I saw through my X-ray vision next. The Timberwolf King advanced towards Pa. Its mouth was salivating with what looked like tree sap, and Pa was slowly being backed into a corner, and then it happened. His sprained leg became caught in a gnarled vine, sending him tumbling to the ground with a sickening crack. He looked up in time to see the Timberwolf King bring its heavy claws across his stomach. Pa's screams were cut short by agonizing pain as the claw tore through his barrel. I felt the burning rage inside of me erupt once again, this time with more power than ever before, and with a loud, loud war cry, I raced headlong towards the king with such speed that I felt my hoofs slowly begin to leave the ground. My entire body felt lighter than the air around it until my hooves were no longer touching the ground. Time seemed to slow down. The winds rushed against my mane as I flew headlong towards the beast, with a resounding, loud crack. My hoof connected with the monster's front leg with such force that it exploded in a shower of bark. The timber wolf toppled onto its back, clutching its stump and howling in pain. Landing roughly in a patch of soft grass, I turned and leapt into the air once more. "You leave my paw alone, you monster!"
I shouted as I drove my hind legs into the king's chest. Whelps of agony echoed through the forest as I felt its chest cavity collapse under me. That wasn't enough. The monster had to suffer. That monster deserved to suffer, and I was going to make sure that it did. Again and again, my hooves pounded against its chest, eliciting whelps of pain. With each blow came satisfaction. Finally, I leapt into the air, ready to strike the killing blow.
"After I finish you, and make sure none of you monsters never hurt any pony else ever again,"
I hissed in a low voice. As I dove towards my target at full force, my front hooves were ready to strike that killing blow, my eyes burning red with rage when I suddenly heard a voice cry out from below. "Apple Comet! Please! Stop!"
"Wait, Pa?"
I felt the fire in my eyes fading away. My momentum and speed evaporated instantly as I felt myself gently floating to the ground. Below me I could see the Timberwolf King's broken form. Whelps of pain winced from its mouth where it lay, and I saw deep impacts and gaping holes where my hooves had made their impact, and in its eyes ran thin sap like tears. I looked down at my hooves, now covered in dirt and sawdust. My heart sank as the reality of what I'd done sank in. Tears filled my eyes as I looked down at the fallen king. This wasn't me defending Pa or myself. This was me inflicting harm on a creature for revenge. To make it feel the pain I felt.
I'm sorry,"
I whispered softly as my hoofs touched the ground. My throat choked with sobs as the beast looked at me with fearful eyes.
"Forgive me."
Slowly trotting over, I saw up close the damage I'd done. Jagged edges jutted out of the stump of its leg. What? Was this what I'd become? Some pony who just hurt others to feel satisfied? Someone who uses their powers to beat down others? I fell down to my haunches and shut my eyes in a pathetic attempt to stop the tears from flowing. "Son." Pa's voice snapped me out of my trance, and I immediately rushed over to his side. His coat was soaked in blood. Even without my X-ray vision, I could see the claws had cut right to the bone. His breath was heavy and labored.
I'm here, Pa. Don't worry. I'm gonna run and get some help. We'll get you to a hospital."
Pa's expression said it all. He knew what was gonna happen. No, son. It won't do me any good. It won't, he rasped.
"No, don't say that, Pa. Don't say I'm not gonna save you."
I argued, and I refused to believe it, but it soon began to sink in that it was already too late. Apple Comet.
Listen to me. Look, these last 5 years, I've watched you grow from that tiny little foal in that rocket to a fine young colt. I wanted you to know. I want you to promise me. Promise me something.
What is it? What is it? Whatever it is, I'll keep it, Pa. You have my word.
Son. Son. Y'all have been given a powerful gift. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where you came from. Just know that you've made me so proud to be your pa. I want you to promise me that y'all never do. Y'all never do what you did tonight. Promise. Promise me that y'all never use your powers to hurt others.
I promise. I promise, Pa.
He smiled warmly at me as I buried my face into his neck.
Oh, Celestia, Pa. Pa, I'm so sorry. I should have never run away.
Pa's blood stained my coat from my neck all the way to my legs.
Don't go blaming on yourself for what you've done to me. No, it ain't your fault. It ain't your fault.
But, Pa,
I protested.
If I hadn't run off like I did, none of this would have happened. You wouldn't be here.
I felt whatever composure I had left. It just left my body as I collapsed onto him like a newborn foal. Slowly, I felt Pa's hoof run across my back.
Shh. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Apple Comet.
He said softly, and slowly I looked up at him. There were no tears in his eyes. Instead, I just saw something else. Acceptance.
Everything happens for a reason. Even in death. I can finally see your ma again. I can only imagine the tongue lashing she's gonna give me for making her wait so long.
He chuckled heartily to himself before reaching up to take off his hat.
Here. Here. Give this to him,
He said before handing it over to me.
Tell him I love him, and I'll be watching over him.
His eyelids began to sink. His heartbeat was quickly reaching a climax.
I love you, son.
His breath fell silent. His heart ceased to beat. With those last words, Bright Mac left this world forever.
Pa?